Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned in to the Rebel News live stream. It is Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. Holy Mackinac, the first day of fall. Where is the year going? I'm David Menzies, and I am joined, as usual, every Tuesday and Thursday in this space at this time by my lovely co-host, Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reed. How you doing today, Sheila?
David, I'm really good. I can't believe it's the first day of fall. That snuck right up on me. What happened to September? It's just gone.
What does that mean for you as a farmer girl? I mean, do you have to now change your ensemble and get out and start cutting crops, or what do they call it, harvesting, or what do you do to bring it to my table again? How does that work?
Yeah, it's harvesting. It's called harvesting, and that's how the food magically gets to your table. We just click our fingers, and then it turns up in the grocery store, and then somebody runs down and picks it up for you, and then the lovely Lady Menzies cooks it. Yeah, no, it's
Isn't that beautiful? That's the way I like it. So thank God for all you the little farmer people out there that bring the groceries to the supermarket so Lady Menzoid can cook it for me. I love that system.
Yeah, it's harvest. The weather actually has been pretty good right now. It's been dry and not it's not warm. It's been around 15 degrees, so it's perfect harvest weather to sit in the tractor and combine. But yeah, it's the busy time of year for farmers, and best of luck to all of them there.
And something, Sheila, in all honesty, I do so admire the farm community for working the land. There is so much risk and sometimes so little reward. Weather-wise, so much can go wrong that ruins months of toil. I remember last year at this time, or it might have been October of 2019, you were kindly driving me to the airport, and we passed, that was in Alberta, and we were passing some farmers' fields, and there was snow on the ground, and you were looking at the fields, and you were going, oh my goodness, how sad they didn't get the crops in on time. And basically you were saying that's a write-off. There's no make good for that. And that broke my heart seeing that scene. But it just shows you the kind of risk that these farmers have to put up with factors like the weather completely out of their control.
Yeah, and farmers are price takers; they're not price setters, right? So, what you sell for is what the price is on the world market or the Canadian market. So, with beef, with anything, you just take the price. You don't get an opportunity to set the price of your goods like they do in other industries. And yeah, it's funny because farmers who aren't religious are probably deeply religious people without realizing it, because it's all in God's hands. Most days you look up at the sky and you hope for the best and you pray for the best, but that's just what you get. You get what you get.
And it seems to me, religion aside, Sheila, there's some kind of, I don't know if I'm overthinking this. You tell me. It's almost like a spiritual connection to the land.
Yeah.
The idea that you plant something, and after months of tender loving care, a bounty of food that sustains us. And that's a beautiful thing. Where would we be without them, right?
You and I have talked about this before, not on air, but in general conversations. I live on the family farm. This is my family's first homestead in Alberta. It was settled in 1903. And I live on the same land as generations of my family. And this land and all it can give us is all that sustained generations of my family. So even in my daily life, I try to acknowledge that and take advantage of that. So even in my flower beds, I'll mix tomato plants in, or cucumber plants, or just things that the kids can run by and eat, because I just want to be a part of that. It sounds cliche, but it really is like the circle of life. I'm participating in that way that the land has always sustained my family, and I'm doing it for my kids too. And hopefully they'll do the same with the land that we've kept for them. I've got one daughter who's pretty eager to take over the farm. She always says stuff like, when I take over the farm, and I'm like, well, where the heck am I going? What are you going to do with me? Are you just going to warehouse me in the old people's home? What are you going to do? She's like, yeah, when I move in here into the farmhouse, I'm going to paint this and this. And I'm like, You're 14. You're already getting rid of me. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm unique in saying that as a farmer, I do feel a deep connection to the land, especially when generations of your family have been sustained by it.
Well, you know what? You're right. It's a kinder, gentler circle of life because there's no lions in Alberta that will eat you up. Although back in the 80s, I think I did see a cougar in Alberta one time.
Yep.
That's a different story. Well,
Yeah.
Sheila, in case anyone thinks,
David.
in case anyone thinks they've tuned into Farm Film Report with Big Jim McBob and Billy Saul Hurok, we better get to what it is we're trying to do here, and that's where you explain that whole super chatty thing.
Do you know I would actually watch that farm show? I would. Anyway, what we're doing here, this is the daily live stream here on Rebel News. It used to just be on Friday, but during the pandemic, we actually expanded our coverage to 5 days a week because there's more news than ever. Gives David and I a chance to interact with each other, which is great because we see each other in morning staff meetings, but we don't get often a chance to talk to each other like this. And we get to talk about the news of the day, which interests us, and cultural issues and social issues. But it also gives our viewers a chance to interact with each other in the live chat, which is, I mean, it's lively. I pop in like 10 minutes before the show comes on, and there's like 100 people always sitting there waiting for us to start, which I think is great. I mean, it's always great that there are people who are tuning in to hear what you have to say. I think that's why we're here. But also it gives people a chance to support the work that we do here at Rebel News completely willingly, unlike what they do to you with the CBC and their $1.5 billion in taxpayer subsidies a year. You can actually direct the direction of the show. If you want to do something called a super chat, you just click on the little $sign at the bottom of the live chat. And you can throw some money in there. It'll highlight your comment. It'll pin it to the top so that everybody sees it. If there's a question you want to ask David or me, or a topic you want to discuss, or a question, or anything like that, throw it in there. The show is really yours to direct, everybody at home, and you get to support us in this way.
And we sure do appreciate it. And Sheila, without further ado, I mean, sharp-eyed observers might be noticing a little yellow button on my lapel, and it says, I am exempt, maskexemption.ca. That gives you all the details. And what can I say, Sheila? The big boss man, Ezra Levent, he's done it again. Another blockbuster idea from the House of Ideas. As you know, folks, we've been handing out basically tailor-made exemption cards depending on what jurisdiction you're residing in, and we hired a team of lawyers to go through all those regs. But you know, the problem is, and I encountered this firsthand last month when Mocha and I, our ace cameraman, were flying to Thunder Bay, Sheila, going through the airport, constantly having to take the card out of your pocket, going through all the, 12 times. And my God, when I was going through security, because, I trigger the alarms because of my hip operation and the implants there, that means I get elevated to, I guess, jihadi level pat downs. And the guy...
You're getting the cavity searches, aren't you? You are.
It was unbelievable. He already had his mask on. This is how insane things are. But because he had to actually touch me, he goes away, comes back a minute and a half later. He's got the full face shield. So I've got a napkin here. So this is what it sounds like when he's giving me the commands. And I'm going... I'm not being difficult, Sheila. I'm going, excuse me, what? And he's getting mad. It's like, basically he's telling me to assume those crazy poses. Anyways, the point I'm getting at, if I had one of these back then, I would just put it on lapel, just sail through. And, similarly, if you're shopping, you don't have to be, harassed or questioned by employees or security guards or mall management or anything like that. It's, you know what, Sheila? It's like having Captain America's shield or Thor's hammer or Green Lantern's power ring. You've got this cloak of invulnerability. And I believe... we do have some video where the boss man, Ezra Levent, he explains it far better than I just did. So why don't we throw to that and see if there's some interest?
Look at this. It's a new button. I am exempt. And a friendly picture of a face mask. And our website is on there, maskexemption.ca, that explains what it all means. You'll recall that a month ago or so, we produced thousands of cards like this, suitable for carrying around in your wallet. We had two versions of the cards. The first one that I used was a Toronto version, and on the back of the card, it actually has the sections of the Toronto Mask Bylaw that explains the exemptions. And importantly, that it's illegal for anyone to ask you to prove that you're exempt. That's a pretty powerful exemption right there. But there's so many different versions of mask bylaws in Canada. Every uppity politician has their own version. That we couldn't very practically make a different card with every town's exemptions printed on the back. So we have a generic version of the card, and it simply directs you to our main website that actually does have literally every single mask bylaw and every mask bylaw exemption in the whole country. That's a lot of work to put together, by the way, and we hired a law firm to do it properly, and we have our lawyer update it from time to time. Now, we've totally sold out of our Toronto card. I think we might have some of the generic cards left, but we've made the artwork available for free on our website, so you can just print it yourself at home. Now, these aren't official documents, these cards. They're just a formal way of saying I'm exempt and to remind you where to find the law and the exemption. I've used my exemption card with 100% success so far, especially in Toronto where the bylaw exemption is so powerful. But I was out one night and I saw a young man with one of those name tag stickers, you know, the ones that say, hello, my name is, and you just write your name on it in a marker. And he had written on there, I'm exempt, or I'm exempt from masks, or something really informal, handwritten, but it was large enough to be seen by me and everyone else about 10 feet away. And where I was carrying my exemption card in my hand, waiting for some scold or bureaucrat or cop or bossy staff somewhere to accost me, this guy was preempting all that with a friendly handwritten note on his t-shirt. And it struck me that the cards that we use let the scolds and the bureaucrats and the muzzlers make the first move. And then by the time they scold you, they're already on the offensive. They've already decided to pick a fight with you. And you're immediately on the defensive. That's stressful, that's unfun, and their own pride will probably make them fight you harder. Whereas this kid, by putting it right on his chest, it was like a force field. Everyone around him was put on notice that he was exempt. So any half-hearted scold, which is most of them, or any scold that was uncertain about the mask law and its exemptions, which is most of them, they would hopefully back off. And if someone actually did come up to him and say, put on a muzzle, they would probably be violating his exemption. So he's a pretty smart kid, eh? Well, I like the idea so much we ordered these buttons. They're like the mask exemption cards, except you wear them proactively, preemptively. They're very simple and very friendly. I am exempt. And they have that useful website, maskexemption.ca, right on them, where all the exemptions are listed. So you don't have to be worried. You don't have to be reactive. You don't have to let the scolds attack first before you defend. You're not the one being socially awkward. They are, by acting in defiance of your friendly button announcing you're exempt. And seriously, it depends on the jurisdiction. If anyone does demand you prove your exemption after you wear your button, oh boy, they're breaking the law. So get your exemption button now. They're made in Canada. I checked. You can order them right there on maskexemption.ca. They're $10 each, which covers both the button and the shipping. We make a couple bucks profit off each button, but I can assure you we need that for the thousands of dollars worth of legal research that it took to set up maskexemption.ca. We had to hire a law firm to go through every bylaw in the country, every province, city, town, even Transport Canada, for their rules for airports and airlines. It's all there on one page, the only website of its kind in Canada or the world that I know of. So get your own button now at maskexemption.ca. Get them quickly, though. We sold out of our Toronto mask exemption cards in just a week or two, so please order now to avoid disappointment. Good luck. Stay safe and stay free. Go to maskexemption.ca to get your button. Breathe easy, my friends.
You know, Sheila, in case anyone's recoiling at the idea of paying $10 for one of these badges, I would buy 2 or 3, and I'll tell you why. Yeah. Let's fast forward to 2030, 2040, when this pandemic is a forgotten memory by an entire generation. These are going to be collectible. These are the first run I am exempt yellow badges. It's just like every Wednesday when the comic books come out, I always advise Justin on which comic books have potential future collectability, and he's very grateful for that. I'm telling you, folks, buy these to use them in the here and now, and probably as a speculative item in terms of value add in the future. These, I think, are indeed future collector's items. What do you think, Sheila?
I've been going along and collecting everything that I think would be noteworthy that my grandchildren would think would be interesting when they say to me, Grandma, tell us the time of the Wuhan lung rattles. Tell us all about it. I have been collecting things and putting them in like a Rubbermaid bin. So newspapers of like a noteworthy day or the day that they close things down. I did the same thing when my kids were born. I saved the newspaper from that day and put it in their baby box just so that they have that, so they know the news of the day. And I think that if you're somebody like that who's trying to preserve a little piece of history about what's happening right now, I think these are a great thing, because there's a story to be told about the compliance of people who so quickly like did exactly what the government told them. And then there's a story to be told about the people who approached all of this with skepticism, with reason, polite. I mean, you can't talk like that button is very polite. That button is a means by which to avoid confrontation, to stand up for your rights, to say, yes, I'm a skeptic if that's the reason why you're wearing it, or yes, I'm medically exempt. There's a lot of those people. But also it's the kinder, gentler way to go through the day while showing your resistance to some of these dumb rules.
And by the way, Sheila, let's talk about the rule makers, because I know there's a contingency out there that are saying, oh, for goodness sakes, will you just wear the damn mask already and cooperate?
Yeah.
Yet, why, and will you maintain your bubble, and will you please socially distance, and will you please not gather in groups of more than 10 indoors and more than 25 outdoors? And then I see the Premier of Ontario, who just enacted really draconian harsh penalties as of Friday regarding social gatherings, indoor and outdoor. I look at the wedding he attended just last month for one of his MPPs. No social distancing, way more than 25 people at an outdoor affair, nobody wearing masks. I see John Tory bragging about law enforcement cracking down, but gathering in groups. And this was at the height of the pandemic, Sheila, for photo ops and not wearing his face mask. Lo and behold, how can I ever forget sneaky Patrick Brown putting in all kinds of crazy bylaws for the city of Brampton, hiring a personal, or rather a private security company to act as an army of snitches to call bylaw whenever they saw breaking bylaw. And yet this guy sneaks into a hockey rink he had opened up for him and his Barrie buddies. And of course, even the Prime Minister, who, like Doug Ford around Easter, don't get together, don't travel to your cottage on Easter. And guess what? We're traveling to our cottages on Easter. So please, folks, don't give me any sermons when the people who should be leading by example are the very worst violators.
And there seems to be no escape from these totalitarians. They've completely colonized municipal government. Yeah. I know in Alberta, we've taken a much different approach than Ontario, and yet our numbers seem to be similar. I was looking at the numbers yesterday. There's just 3 people in the ICU in Edmonton. That's over 1 million people. Just 3 people in the ICU with the coronavirus. Yet the Edmonton municipal government requires masks inside of all indoor places, like everywhere. But our provincial government didn't mandate these things. I think the opposite is true in Ontario, where if the municipal governments aren't totalitarian enough, then the provincial government steps in. Our provincial government has said, look, we're one of the freest jurisdictions right now. We're right up there with South Dakota for our approach in these things. We're letting the municipalities deal with it because these issues are really local, which I guess is fair. However, I mean, municipal governments are really just a breeding ground for control freaks. But in Ontario, the opposite is true. You have a premier who's supposed to be a conservative lecturing you that, like, instead of saying, we're leaving this in the hands of the municipalities, that's fine. But your Conservative premier is talking down to and scolding citizens because they are resentful of these municipal regulations that none of the people in power seem to follow anyway, as you rightly point out.
And Sheila, let's look at the numbers. I think one of the reasons why politicians of every stripe at every level in Ontario are losing their you-know-what is because the spike in Wuhan virus positive tests. I believe the other day it was 487 positive tests, which was the highest since May. But here's the thing, Sheila. Yes, you're COVID-19 positive. Could you please tell me what the deaths are? And I think the last death in this province, I'm going by memory, it might have been in August at some point. So, in Toronto rather. Thank you. There we go. These are the Ontario numbers, but the last Toronto death, as Mr. Producer pointed out, was indeed sometime in August. So you could almost make the case, Sheila, that the pandemic is over. Just because there's a positive test, that doesn't mean it's a death sentence. It's like getting the flu. It doesn't mean you're going to die, right? So, that's why I have to raise a Spockian eyebrow when various politicians are, proclaiming this as doomsday because of the spike in numbers. And by the way, I should add, there's been a huge increase in testing. So of course, the numbers are going to be higher than what they once were. In any event. That's my stance.
That's exactly the data I was bringing up on my phone. In Alberta, we have 1,459 active cases. That's active cases. That just means people who have tested positive. That's not people who are sick. That's not people who are exhibiting symptoms. That's not people in the ICU. That's nothing. That's just, okay, well, I have a positive test. That's the number of 4.5 million people. They have completed testing on they've tested over 930,000 people, 933,000 people. That's almost a quarter of our population. They've completed 1.2 million tests in this province. And that's all they could come up with is currently active cases, 1,459. So they've opened up testing to everybody. They're doing these mass testing. So of course the case numbers are skewing upwards, but you do have the most important thing to look at is the hospitalization rates and the ICU rates, which could not be lower.
And we know from doctors and nurses who have spoken to us off the record or in a disguised fashion, they've never been less busy. I always tell that story of that doctor, 30 years of practice. He told me, Dave, for the first time ever the other day at the hospital, I put in a 14-hour shift and I saw 0 patients. That doesn't mean there's no patients to be seen, but elective surgery has been canceled and people are dying on those elective surgery lists, some of them relatively young. That's a scandal. Yeah. I'll tell you, Sheila, when all this is over, I hope there's going to be public inquiries, royal commissions to see how we handled this fiasco. And that's what this is, a fiasco, so that we never fall into this trap again. It's been debilitating, and I'm not talking about the death rate from the Wuhan virus. I'm talking about all the complications from shutting down the hospital, people with elective surgery, to shutting down the economy and increasing the rates of depression, suicide, spousal abuse. It is horrible what's happened. But again, this virus is from China, much like the other few pandemics that's gone around the world. And Justin Trudeau basically admires the basic kind of dictatorship that China is in terms of getting things done. Unbelievable. Do we have super chats, my friend?
We do. There's one thing, though, that you left off the list of social catastrophes because of the pandemic lockdown, and that is the increase in the number of stillbirths across the world, but particularly in the Western world, because the Western world so quickly moved to lockdown. And so there was a stigma around going to the hospital. So pregnant women who are experiencing complications or noticing changes in their pregnancy, you're already a little bit anxious during pregnancy anyways, because you think everything's going wrong and everything's weird. but they weren't going to the hospital because we were told to stay away from the hospital. Everybody was. So pregnant women didn't go to the hospital when they noticed, okay, well, I feel like I'm swelling, my blood pressure's up, whatever. And they were also, a lot of obstetricians moved to online, like Zoom obstetrician appointments. Well, how does your obstetrician check your blood pressure, your blood sugars, look at you for swelling or changes in that way? And so they saw a dramatic increase in stillbirths during the pandemic. That's just they will never be counted as victims of the pandemic, but those babies and those women who have to deliver fully formed dead babies because they were unable to see their obstetrician, they should be definitely in the death counts for the pandemic.
But not to worry, Sheila, if anyone's stressed out by these kind of tales, well, we always kept the liquor stores open, right? So you could buy a bottle of scotch.
The liquor store, the weed man.
It helps, of course, in Ontario. It's a government monopoly liquor store. But anyways, I digress. Okay.
We should give that website one more time for the buttons, though. That's maskexemption.ca. Get your button. It's like a beacon to tell the Walmart Karens to stay away from you. It's beautiful. And before we get into the super chats, Dave Warren in the comment section, I was just peeking back when we were watching the mask exemption button video from Ezra. Dave Warren suspects that I've never actually watched SCTV in my life. I have a sticker on this computer right here. I don't know if you can see it, it's sort of off frame, but it has SCTV there. And I have several SCTV t-shirts because I'm such an SCTV fan, including one that says straight out of Melonville instead of straight out of Compton. And and I have a shirt that is it looks like a tour shirt for Stan Schmangy and the Happy Wanderers.
Oh, yes.
It looks like a concert shirt from them that I have. So yes, I have seen SCTV.
And Sheila, let it be said, I'm actually reading Dave Thomas. It's been in print for a while, but I usually wait till these books go to the secondhand bookstore so I can save a couple of bucks. But it's the history of SCTV, and it was a perfect storm in a set of perfect conditions. First of all, the talent was so exceptional. There was no weak link. Secondly, the quality of writing was absolutely top notch. And Dave Thomas did a lot of that writing, by the way. And third, it came at a time, late 70s, early 80s, where you could make jokes and even do ethnic, like Dave Thomas, one of his characters, Lin Yi Tang, right? He even says in the book, if we were making SCTV now, there's no way we could, a Caucasian could portray an Asian. And it's so sad, Sheila, because today with our cancel culture, if SCTV was a newly hatched entity using the same kind of material, the same kind of characters it did 35 years ago, it would be canceled outright, and there would be boycott campaigns, and the snowflakes would lose their marbles. So thank goodness this little microcosm of brilliant humor exists untouched, at least in DVDs or wherever you stream your entertainment from, because it stands the test of time, in my opinion, Sheila.
I don't know what day that Halloween falls on the calendar, but if it's you and I should go as Count Floyd and Bruno for Halloween if we have to host the live stream. It's
actually a Saturday. Yeah, no. Well, of course. I don't want to be Bruno. Count Floyd, I love with his 3D glasses.
I'll be Bruno.
But I'm sure there's. I could see you pulling off Edith Prickly. The Andrea Martin campaign.
I have glasses. I have the.
You got the glasses, and all you need is some leopard print ensemble, and there you go. You're halfway there.
It'll be the Monster Chiller horror live stream that day on the Friday before. Okay, let's get into these super chats because we're half an hour into the show and we've talked about one thing again. Okay, Adam Clark gives us $6.99. David, I got to say, I was hoping to see you do a video on the huge car meet in Hamilton on Saturday. Doug Ford called us all idiots. Much love to the rebel.
Yeah, and basically made some mention, Sheila, that if only we had the space in hospital for MRI testing so we could put their brains in there. This is the guy that went to that huge outdoor wedding I explained earlier.
Yeah.
Had I known about that car meet, I would have gone. But we will get to a video of Yahoo Nation on the day after these restrictions went in far greater numbers than 25. There were hundreds that showed up on the lawns of Queen's Park and marched through downtown Toronto. And Queen's Park, literally in the backyard of the Premier, just daring him to, give them those, 5 or 6 figure fines and the $880 fines for attendees. And I'll keep my powder dry. I'll tell you how that turns out. But yeah, anyone that is organizing any kind of meet like that, outdoor car meet in Hamilton, we have a tips line at Rebel. And please let me know in advance. Give me a day so I can arrange to get a cameraman, and I will come out and cover that.
Yeah. Doug Ford, what a joke. Anyways, Noble Canadian, $5. I don't see a super chat. Thank you very much. Proud Boys Calgary gives us $5. Anyone see our banner drop in Calgary? Join Proud Boys recruiting at proudboyscalgary.com. By the way, the French, I guess you mean the Montrealer, Ricin lady looks exactly as expected. Yeah, she does. If I had to draw a picture of an SJW who not only wanted to kill the President of the United States, but also tried to kill the President of the United States, I would have drawn her. I would describe her to a police sketch artist, never having seen her. She looks exactly as you would imagine.
Amazing.
End Times gives us $5. I don't see a super chat. Bernard Hutchison, $2.79. Okay, get on with it. What's up with David's dog leg?
Oh, it's healing. It still looks pretty gruesome. I'm not going to win any beauty contests with these legs, but I'll tell you, Sheila, I'm going to all that trouble I do whenever I can to get on my racer bike and do cycling. You see, folks, cycling is my primary form of exercise. It's why I'm just fat as opposed to circus fat. And I think because my legs are pretty good, I don't dare show them on a family program, but they're pretty muscular, and I think that's helped in the recovery. So thank you for your concern.
I've seen you in shorts. I actually agree with you. I do. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Yeah. Noble Canadian gives us $5. I don't see a super chat. Katrina Panova gives us $6.99. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, and whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. That's John 3:16. And I actually have a pair of cowboy boots with that written across the sole. So if you put the boots together, it says John 3:16 across.
Is that like Austin 3:16?
Yes, exactly. Stone Cold Steve Austin wrote one of the Gospels. Yes, David. This is Catechism of David Menzies. Okay. MVP gives us $5 Australian, I guess. The police behaved themselves around Avi. Looks like Rebel support made a difference. You know what? Why don't we just stop here and show Avi's video?
Yes.
Because that's a great place. That's a great segue.
1-4. That's a lot of cases, isn't it?
No, that's not a lot of cases.
What do you mean? If you do the maths, there's 6.6 million Victorians.
Yes.
What's the chances of catching the virus?
Oh, I don't know. You'll have to do that sum for me, Avi.
0016 or something.
That doesn't make sense.
But isn't it justified? I just can't. Listen, I understand. I get where you're coming from, but there's been 14 cases overnight. I think the economy should be shut down.
No.
What do you mean, no? You are outrageous. You are putting us all at risk. Shame on you.
Daniel Andrews is the one killing people. Look at suicide, look at the mental health crisis which is being created, the domestic violence, the alcoholism, the drugs, right? Locking people in their own homes when they're perfectly healthy people. He's the one with blood on his hands And he's saying he's saving life.
But how can you say that? There's been 14 cases overnight. Don't we deserve a curfew?
I don't look at the numbers.
14?
Of course we don't deserve a curfew. That's ridiculous to have a curfew. 8 p.m.
Have you never been grounded before?
Everyone's, no, not in my family. They give me a lot of freedom, you know. But 8 p.m. everyone's got to be tucked up safely in bed. It's ridiculous. You can't travel more than 5 kilometres. It's totalitarian stuff. And we say we're a democracy. That's not democratic. There's nothing democratic about that. And no one will take responsibility because it's got nothing to do with a health crisis. That's why they're all passing the buck.
Nice to meet you, man.
How you going, guys? You all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we here for exercise?
Oh, absolutely, man. I've got this belly to get rid of, right?
Me and my sister, we are like your biggest fan. We love you.
Oh, what is wrong with you guys?
14 cases.
Doesn't that justify shutting down the economy, arresting pregnant mums, journalists, senior citizens? Doesn't it justify it?
Totally justifies it and totally justifies passing the omnibus bill to lock up people like us just for having an opinion, right? Just for having an opinion. Totally justifies it. I mean, you should have done it years ago.
It's been long enough now, 14 cases today, we don't need to be in lockdown anymore, we certainly don't need this curfew.
Well, are you saying to me with a straight face that 14 cases doesn't justify shutting down our economy, curfews?
You were at the Black Lives Matter rally, you saw how many people rocked up to that. Why can't they do it for this too? You know, why can't they?
Because.
Because, you know, it's a disaster. So, what do you think the end game is here, mate? Let me interview you for a second.
I have no idea. I'm just really worried about the 14 cases overnight.
Oh, I know. Especially because there's been protests for 3 weeks in a row. You expect these numbers to be through the roof right now, right?
Yeah,
but we're super spreaders, apparently.
What do you mean? I'm suspecting tomorrow's going to be 18.
I'm from the UK, I've been over here for 7 years, my family live in the UK. Since we've been in this lockdown, the UK, okay, they've got 4,000 new cases today. My family have been on holiday overseas twice. My friends go to the pub. They do things that normal people do, that what we are used to doing.
But you know the British are not normal.
No, we're never normal.
You know, Sheila, how cool would it have been if Paul Hogan as Crocodile Dundee went on the camera and went, Wuhan, oi, that's not a virus. Now Ebola, that's a virus. I mean, I gotta tell you though, my heart jumped the first time watching that when I saw that battalion of fluorescent colored police officers all masked up coming directly at Avi. I thought, oh no, not another violent takedown, but they went right past them. So I guess, is there something changing maybe in Australia?
I think something is changing, and it's the fact that there is a journalist on the ground exposing all this totalitarianism and tyranny being imposed on the citizens of, not all of Australia, but I guess Victoria, because as Avi points out, 14 cases. Those aren't illnesses, not hospitalizations, not ICU admissions, cases, just positive test results. The whole place is in lockdown, and the police are patrolling like the Stasi in the streets. And neighbors are telling on neighbors, and they're arresting pregnant women. Something is changing, and it's that now the whole world is looking at Victoria because Avi is showing the world what's going on there. And I think that's why the police are not putting their hands on Avi, aren't telling him to move along. They don't know where Avi's going to be. So if there's a protest, Avi may or may not be there. So the police don't want to roll up heavy-handed because, there's Avi, and he's going to embarrass all of us one more time. So I think it is the Avi Yamini effect.
And you know, Sheila, what these tin pot wannabe dictators in Western democracies don't understand is that even though they have perhaps the law on their side, and that has to be proven in a court when these cases get heard, in terms of the court of public opinion, it looks so disastrous. Nothing was more repugnant so far this year that we've run than Avi getting gang tackled by those cops. He wasn't putting up any resistance. He even had, I still can't believe I'm saying this, a permit to conduct journalism there. Similarly, to a much lesser extent, I think it looks just absolutely horrible for crybaby Patrick Brown when I was put into a Peel Regional police cruiser and detained for about half an hour because the mayor doesn't like insensitive questions asked of him when he goes into the hockey rink to play with his buddies from Barrie, some shinny. That's the thing I'm getting at. Those optics, Sheila, are toxic. You know, maybe I was violating an order to vacate the property under the Trespass Act, and of course that's part of a court case. We'll see. Maybe Avi, I don't know what, maybe he did something out of character. Like I said, I can't imagine what it was. He had a permit. He was where the other media were, but he was the only one singled out. But like I said, someone tuning in and just watching that is saying, this is not right. This stinks.
Yeah, well, and I think people are moved and compelled by what happened to Avi. There's a petition at standwithavi.com.
Yes.
But Avi has also filed a lawsuit against the cops who basically flattened him as he was standing there holding his Rebel News microphone. So it's pretty clear he's a journalist. Avi says, I was picked up and smashed to the ground and arrested and led away in handcuffs for no reason whatsoever. Help fund my lawsuit for justice against the lockdown police. So I think Avi's lawsuit, much like the rest of our Fight the Fines lawsuits. Oh, Sheila, look at that segue into your clip with Walter Matheson. Anyways, much like our Fight the Fines lawsuits, or not lawsuits, but our Fight the Fines Fight Back here in Canada, Avi's lawsuit against the police for what they did to him, I think, is going to send a chill across them and maybe make them think twice before they grab Avi again or anybody else again. And if people would like to donate, they can do that at standwithavi.com.
And you know, Sheila, I know lawyers cringe at the phrase, this is a slam dunk case. I don't care. This is a slam dunk case. He had his permit, his little precious journalism permit that the state requires. He was in a public square, and he was exactly where other members of the Australian media party were situated. Why tackle Avi and why not them? Why is one of these things not like the others? Like I said, slam dunk. And like you said, what a great segue for us to celebrate our first victory on Fight the Fines. It's your case. I'm so jealous of that, Sheila. When I heard this case originally about Walter Matheson in New Brunswick, first of all, I said, no, it's got to be a hoax. It can't be. And then we saw the video, or it was rather the audio, and my jaw was on the linoleum. I couldn't believe it. Without further ado, why don't we play that clip? And I think the police officer who fined him did the smartest thing in his life by probably behind the scenes begging the Crown to drop this case.
This story has everything.
Okay, if you don't move, I'm going to give you a $292 ticket.
Is that right?
Yes.
For doing what?
For not moving in compliance to what I'm saying. I'm trying to be nice to you. License, please. License, please.
No, I'll leave.
Then leave now.
Okay.
I was nice to you. I gave you a chance. Get out. If I catch you
Thank
back
you
here,
very
it will
much.
be a $292 ticket.
What's your name, sir?
Constable John Thompson.
Okay, thank you, John.
Okay?
Yeah.
I would still like to see your driver's license, though.
Well, I'm okay.
No, I would like to see it, sir. Stop right there. Driver's license.
Just a minute, I'll back up.
Doesn't matter. You don't have to. You stop right where you are.
Oh. How long is this going to go on?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I don't like it any more than you do, but I'm doing a job. I'll be right back. Hey, sir, I was nice to you. I asked you to leave. You gave me a hard time, so now you're getting a ticket under the failure to comply with the directions of the Emergency Measures Act. Yes, you did, sir. Okay? You didn't want to leave. Don't try arguing now. If you want to take it up with somebody, you can take it up with the sergeant at the office. If you come back here, you will now be trespassing.
Excuse me?
If you come back, you will now be trespassing.
Does that include every Tim Hortons in town?
No, that's just one here in Hampton. Just this one. So if you come back, you're trespassing. There's your ticket. Leave the parking lot now, sir, or else get another one. Next one goes up to $1,000.
Really?
Yes. You can get up to $10,000.
How many have you given out today?
You're the first.
Well, I feel so good
You're
about
lucky.
that.
You're the first. You're the first asshole I've had.
Thank you very much.
You can hear the full audio recording of Walter's interaction that day and see the whole outrageous story at fightthefines.com. Now, we immediately at Rebel News jumped in to help Walter. With your help, we hired Walter, one of the best lawyers in the country, Sam Goldstein. He's a bencher with the Law Society of Ontario. Sam Goldstein was going to help Walter challenge that ticket. Now, this story, it's already crazy, but it gets even crazier. The cop who got vulgar with Walter and tried to bully him then tried to bully me. That cop hired a lawyer named Carly Parrish to send a letter to my boss at Rebel News telling us to take down our video, accusing me, I think, she wasn't all that clear, of defaming the RCMP officer, who I didn't actually name in my video, not even once, by publishing the audio Walter recorded that she also strangely accused me of recording. And finally, Carly Parrish demanded that I turn my recording over to the RCMP detachment communist style. It was insane, and of course, I didn't comply because this is a free country and journalism isn't illegal. I mean, seriously, you can't bully me. I work for Rebel News. Again, you can see the video that I did about that weird vignette in this whole weird saga and read the utterly bizarre letter Parrish sent me at fightthefines.com. Now, I think in all, the videos that we did about the tribulations of poor Walter Matheson have close to 1 million views combined. But, friends, this thing gets even weirder. Now we're on a side road here. That inept lawyer, Carly Parrish, just ran for the Liberals in New Brunswick in their provincial election and lost in an epic way just a couple of days ago, barely wrangling up over 1,000 votes. I guess unconstitutional bullying isn't a great campaign strategy in small-town maritime Canada. So that was a small bit of good news. A not nice person getting exactly what they deserve. But there's even better news. We have a victory on our hands here, friends. The prosecutor in Hampton has thrown out Walter's ticket. They say on a technicality, even though that technicality is something that could have easily been amended. I say they turfed the ticket because they all know that cop made a huge mistake and embarrassed himself and everyone else now forced to deal with the ticket after the fact. They're dropping that ticket because Walter fought back and because we told the world about what happened to Walter. Now, I caught up with Walter earlier this week to talk about the good news. Take a listen.
Well, I went to the court and I waited outside because there was 30 people ahead of me and they were only allowing a few people in at a time, a couple, I think. Anyway, I finally got in after the 30 people were done. This was 3 hours later. And I went in and sat on the bench and waited till waiting for them to call me up. When the last person up speaking to the judge finished, it was a woman and she left. And as she left, the judge got up and walked out the door. And I said, what on earth is going on here? And the sheriff there was standing next to me. He says, I don't know. So anyway, this lady comes over to me and she says, Walter? I said, yes. She said, I found your ticket this morning and it wasn't paid out properly, so we tore it up. Well, I don't know whether I believe that or not, but I kind of wonder why they didn't let me know when I was there, not 3 hours before that. But anyway, they said it was thrown out.
What do you think? Because I think that they tossed your ticket because they didn't think that you were going to fight back. I think they thought you were going to roll over. They didn't think you were going to go public. They didn't think that you would ultimately end up embarrassing the police force with your very public story. They didn't think you would end up with a lawyer, and they didn't think you would show up in court to contest the ticket. So I think that they were just didn't want to deal with Walter Matheson anymore. That's what I think. Now, Walter, I'm very happy to hear that your ticket has been dropped. I know a lot of people were cheering for you and supportive of you fighting back. And I know a lot of people donated to help cover the cost of your lawyer, Sam Goldstein. Do you have any message for those people?
Oh, yes. I'd like to thank everybody that stood behind me for this, especially Rebel News, of course. and you, Sheila, you're my hero now. There was a lot of people that commented on it, and I read most of them. Yes, I'd like to thank you all that supported me, and hopefully nothing like this ever happens again.
You know, Sheila, I'm disappointed. I wanted to go to this to go to trial just for one reason. I wanted to see Carly Parrish lose yet again, have the hat trick. First of all, there was that letter, and you were probably too kind to mention this, but it was filled with grammatical and spelling mistakes. I mean, what kind of a lawyer is she? Secondly, like you said, to run for the province as a Liberal and only get just over 1,000 votes. Oh, you know, holy landslide. And then, you know, just to see her, you know, further embarrass herself, that would be worth the price of admission. But, you know, I just love Walter Matheson. He seems like such, just a decent, nice guy. And that interaction with Constable John Thompson, he wasn't being a smart ass, Sheila. He was just calmly asking questions. I mean, the best one is this for all Tim Hortons? And the cop says, no, just the one here in Hampton.
Just the one where I am as a cop. Yeah, I mean, that cop complained that he got death threats after we told Walter's story. I don't know. You're a cop. File a report. Go find the people. Take the people off the muffin guy beat down at the Tim Hortons and the COVID ticket department and put them on the death threat department. Actual crimes, real crimes, if they are indeed happening.
I would like to interject, as much as that constable was a bit of an imbecile in that interaction, that doesn't warrant giving a death threat to anyone.
Of course not.
But I will say this, social media, sometimes being as toxic as it is, Sheila, death threats, I'm afraid, are a dime a dozen. There is always a lunatic fringe that is uttering death threats, but the good news is their bark is worse than their bite. It's all keyboard chatter.
By the way, how is it my fault if somebody sent him a death threat? I went out of my way to actually never mention the cop's name in that first story because, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. My issue at the time wasn't with the cop that went from zero to jerk off in like minutes, right? But it was the rules that enable these cops or, you know, like totalitarians that have colonized municipal government. It was these new COVID regulations that basically change as they go and get applied however the jerk applying them feels like. That was my problem with all of it. And Walter could have been any one of us. He was trying to follow the rules, not only by not eating and driving, but by trying to comply with the officer after the fact. And that just wasn't good enough. You know, and you mentioned a good point, Sheila. He was in a parking lot with the windows rolled up, having a coffee and a muffin by himself. Yeah. And the only, in theory, potentially dangerous interaction, if you want to call it that, I'll put air quotes on dangerous, was the cop coming up, having him lower his window, and now they're less than 2 meters apart having a discussion. Yeah. And the other thing I've always wondered about that, folks, if you go back and you watch Sheila's original video, see the whole transcript of what went down, Constable starts off very friendly and cordial. He seems like, you know, officer friendly. And on a dime, and I don't know what it was that triggered him. That if I could ask one question of him, it was this: what made you go from Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde in the space of 2 seconds? Like that. I know. That's a mystery to me. I guess we'll never find out unless we happen to be in Hampton at the Tim Hortons parking lot. And this is a lesson for everybody watching at home, everybody who's watched Walter's videos. Yeah. Record everything. 100%. Record your interactions. If Walter hadn't recorded his interaction with the police officer that day, there would be nothing here. There would be no there. But that interaction with the cop really exposed just how ridiculous these COVID regulations are and how ornery jerks can just use them to do whatever they want. And that's what happened here. And thank God Walter had the foresight to be a citizen journalist like that.
And you know what, folks? What Sheila just said is 6 figures worth of free advice. Once you detect something is going south, once you see there is some impropriety going on, at least get an audio recording. We've seen it with Walter Thompson. We've seen it with other cases. Linda Brownlee, who was attacked by that wild Karen, verbally attacked at a Scarborough Dollarama for not wearing her mask due to a legitimate medical condition. We live in a society right now, Sheila, that if it didn't happen on video, it never happened. It is an endless he said, she said thing. And almost everyone has a smartphone. Just press record and keep a record of it.
Right. And Justin is whispering in my ear and your ear that we need to get to the super chats. But if anybody would like to see the full video of Walter and see all the videos we did on Walter's story, they can do that at fightthefines.com. And if you'd like to help support our other Fight the Fines cases, because I think these Fight the Fines cases are working. I think they are making the police think twice before they ticket people. You can donate to the legal battle at fightthefines.com.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody who did that. Walter was so grateful.
And by the way, Canadian Civil Liberties Association, this is how it's done, right?
Yeah.
Not going on a campaign to get offenders, some of them violent, out of jails so that social distancing is practiced in correctional facilities. And you can open up space for, I don't know, Sheila, law-abiding citizens breaking one of these ridiculous bylaws to be thrown in the clink. What a bizarro world we're in, eh?
If I read another press release from those people and the associated associations of civil liberties people, the press freedom people, about the hurt feelings of a journalist in another country, while our journalists, like Avi got arrested, thrown on the ground. He works for a Canadian company. You think the Canadian Civil Liberties Associations might get their act together and say something about it? No, they're worried that Donald Trump is mean to people. Anyways, let's keep going because we have 4 minutes left in the show and we have super chats to get to. Bill Howie gives us $20. Please interview BC Conservative leader Trevor Bolin. Unlike the rest, the Conservative Party of BC is pro-free speech, for school choice, Quebec-style immigration accord for BC, review equalization. BC Lib leader is a Justin fanboy, and NDP Horgan too. I see Kian has discovered some people who were Peter MacKay's biggest supporters in BC are now campaigning for Horgan. So what does that tell you about everybody involved? Lucy Drinkwater gives us $5. BC election Twitter, Horgan has 96,000 followers to Wilkinson's 9,747. Facebook, Horgan, 42,000 followers, 42,000 followers, Wilkinson's 95. Federally, JT, 5 million. Aaron O'Toole, 90,000 on Twitter and Facebook. Zero Enoch, I think, £5, €5. Trying to super chat from Israel, but they really do not want Israelis donating on YouTube. That's awful. Troy S. gives us $5. David and Sheila, if you could go back in time, what time period or year would you go back to and why? Keep up the awesome show. David, you go.
The 80s, for so many reasons.
Reagan's America.
I think that was peak Toronto then, before we had this obsession of being world class and thereby getting world class problems into our city. The music, the fashion. I also would have gone to that fateful day in 1980 where I sold my comic book collection to buy a used 1974 Camaro. Something that if I hung on today, Sheila, I could buy a Ferrari off the lot, So, yeah, if I could see that's my Back to the Future moment. If we could get a DeLorean with the flux capacitor, I'm going to the early 80s. I just think things were way better back then. God, I miss the 80s, Sheila.
I would kind of want to go back where I was old enough to experience the Cold Warriors, and to truly appreciate Reagan, Thatcher, John Paul II, those people so bold in their defense of human dignity and liberty, and how they understood that the inherent worth of the human individual cannot be fully recognized in an oppressed individual.
Yeah. And speaking of Reagan, even a state like California voting Republican, Sheila. Imagine that.
It's a different time. John Day gives us a better time. John Day gives us $5. I don't see a super chat. Dallas Bentian gives us $5. Can you get Kingston, Ontario exemptions put on the list? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they are or aren't on the list, but we'll look into that after the fact. Lucy Drinkwater again, leverage pandemic to win election, no door knocking, campaign visits, fundraising dinners. Oh, no. The Liberals are holding in-person fundraising dinners. If you got $200 to throw at a Liberal, you can go to one of their fundraising dinners. It's just too dangerous for the Liberals to go sit in the House of Commons and actually govern or be accountable. That's how it works right now. At Town Hall, all candidates will be Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Yes. Dave Warren gives us $5. Sorry, Sheila, I have eaten my words about SCTV. It's okay. Sometimes I just ignore David's jokes and references. It's not that I don't know what he's talking about. I'm just ignoring him. You're the ultimate fan, Sheila. Keep up the good fight against the Wuhan virus. I will. Thank you. James Smith, $5. Rebel News, best journalism on planet Earth. Thank you very much. Wow. Goonies 2, $5. And gives us the Bible verse of Romans 13:1. Leslie P. Campbell, $10. Sheila, y'all still separating? I want to come back to Fort Mac. Here's the thing about separation. I'm worried. Look, I believe in sovereignty. I believe in freedom. I don't want anything to do with Ottawa anymore. We're culturally distinct, all those things. But what happens? I was thinking about this the other day. What happens if there's a vote split on the Conservative side? Conservatives for a separatist party and Conservatives for a Federalist Jason Kenney party, and Rachel Notley wins again. Because that's how she benefited last time, was from a vote split on the right. And so I'm terrified of that too. So just something to keep you up at night. Mike Mayer, that's Mike from People vs. Predators. Thanks for being amazing, Rebel. Thanks, Mike. We have a story about you guys coming up later on today. Lisa Proust gives us $5. Sheila, congrats to you and Walter. You're the best. Tomorrow I'll be live from Ottawa on my YouTube channel as Parliament reopens. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting day tomorrow. We're going to hear all about the green restart to the economy, which means that Alberta is being left in the dust by the federal government while working to get everybody back to work.
And we've got the Boy Wonder down there for that tomorrow, right, Sheila?
Yes, I believe we do. Yeah. Kevin Tennant gives us $5. City of Airdrie does not enforce masks. However, businesses like Walmart and No Frills do. Rules for masks contradictive. Yeah, but the good thing about that is that there's a Save on Foods that you can go to in Airdrie, and you can just go in. I'm a fan of Walmart. I like Walmart. I like the fact that Walmart employs veterans, is a lot of people's first job. They employ senior citizens. They're an affordable place for people who are in fixed incomes to buy groceries. I'm not anti-Walmart by any stretch of the imagination. However, you do have choices. If you don't like that they're making you wear a mask at a No Frills in a Walmart, head on down to the Sobeys, the IGA, the Co-op, and the Save on Foods. It's not an endorsement. I'm just saying the choice is there.
The only thing I hate about Walmart, I tend to go late because there's less people. And when it's near closing time, they always get on the PA system and they say, attention Walmart shoppers, this store will be closing in 15 short minutes. No, a minute is a minute. 15 minutes, there's not a short or a long 15 minutes.
They don't say that here. Like they give you like the heads up.
I know.
Like, hey, the library's closing, heads up. But yeah, they don't say short minutes here. Troy S. Missed my first super chat, was a great one for David and Sheila. Did I miss that, Justin?
Oh.
Maybe you can. Okay, perfect. Justin, put it in the next one. It says, might have been this one. Troy S. $5. Woohoo, YouTube's greatest tag team is rocking it live. David and Sheila are the best. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry that you had to super chat us again to get our attention. Let's smash the like button and please, let's go 2 hours today. We're already over time. Thank you very much, Troy. I'm sorry I missed your first super chat. We should have got to that sooner. Amazon gives us $25. That's not the Amazon, is it? Probably not. You're giving me my money back. $25. Hugs for all. Thank you very much. Did you know that hugs are illegal now, though? Christopher Radenovich, I think, gives us $5. Is there any way I can volunteer for Rebel News in Hamilton, Ontario?
Well, we do have, what is it called, Sheila? Careers at rebelnews.com. And that goes out to everyone. If you want to get involved with our type of journalism, send in your resume. If you have video, send that in too. And we do look at those applications, don't we, Sheila? And we've actually hired from them. So there you go.
Sure. And we do, when we do events, we always reach out to our volunteers. We have some pretty regular volunteers. One of them lives under my roof. But we do take volunteers from the public, just not the people I feed and take care of every day. We do accept help from outside of my home to host events. So that's a great way to reach out to us. Again, is through careers at rebelnews.com. Kane Enmark gives us $2. I like David GQ suits and hats. Have a tip for Kian. Just send that in at tips@rebelnews.com. Yeah. David has a certain dapperness about him that I really like. I like the fact that David always shows up wearing a suit and tie, even in the office, even like if we're all there for meetings, David shows up dressed to the nines, takes his job very seriously. I think it's great. I think when you're out there on the streets and you're doing Rebel News work, David has a certain old school aesthetic that I think people really appreciate. I know I do.
Well, I appreciate that, Sheila, although I might have taken it a step too far when I went to Coburg and jumped in the lake in a suit and tie. But
I think that's perfect. B. Baptist gives us $5. Keep up the good work, folks. Can you look into Saskatoon's exemptions, please? Okay, good. I think it's Hamilton and Saskatoon now on the list. And RB gives us Norwegian crown. 55 of those. I don't see a super chat. And I think that brings us to the end of the super chats, and we're 6 minutes past the hour.
Holy Mackinac. Well, that was fantastic. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in again. A special thank you to the super chatters, Justin behind the boards, Mr. Producer, and of course, my lovely co-host, Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reed. I'm David Menzies. We will see you back here on Thursday. Stay safe and have a great day.